It's that long exhale that has such benefit. And
Huge.
I don't know all the science around it. And I know that incorporating tone with it is really, really helpful. And then also shaking. So I'll like shake and then do this big, like big exhale. And it is so relieving of stress and anxiety for me. And I've taught that to my patients as well. I actually would have them do an exhale, a long exhale, because I did a lot of injection therapies, and that's predominantly what I did in practice. And it can be painful, right? And we're going into areas that have a lot of memories in them because the tissues keep the score, really, right? And we would hit into areas that were 3-4 inches deep, and they would like come undone. And we would use this long exhale because when you're in pain, you're just inhaling and holding and sucking air in. And so we would use that too. But can you explain some of the science behind that and mechanism?
So when you're exhaling, what does your diaphragm do? When you're breathing, the diaphragm comes down to pull the lungs. Something that's interesting about the lungs, I had this just kind of thought the other week where I was like, wow, it actually created some pause within me. The lungs, I think we think of the lungs as being like active structures, as though like, your lungs are breathing. It's like your lungs are just these bags filled with, billions of alveoli. If you were to spread out all the alveoli, from what I have read and heard, it would cover the distance of a tennis court. So if you were to like open all of that precious tissue up, it would actually unravel into a tennis court, which is pretty amazing. But what's causing the lungs to be filled with air is all through the contraction of the muscles surrounding. So the diaphragm being like this big, beautiful plunging type device that's slightly asymmetrical because the liver is a little bit bigger on one side. And it pulls that system down. And then you have the intercostals. And then if you're breathing more in a stressed way, you're going to go up into the neck muscles. And all that's happening in that is it's creating a vacuum through these muscular contractions, and you're being filled with air. Like the muscles contract, it creates this inverse pressure system, and you just get filled with air. Like air is just filling you. It's kind of an interesting thing. When I was like, oh, interesting. I'm just like, it's almost like air is happening. But so as you are exhaling, the diaphragm is ascending. So it's coming up. It's closing up the space around the chest cavity. And so that's causing the blood vessels to contract and constrict and get smaller. And then you get a signal through some neurons in the heart. It's like a pacemaker in the heart saying, oh, we need to slow things down a little bit because things are getting really tight. So we're going to slow things down. And then when you are going into an inhale, then suddenly the diaphragm is descending, it's coming down. So now all of a sudden the chambers of the heart and that whole chest cavity expands outward. It's called sinus, what is it called? Nasal sinus arrhythmia. I'm spacing the name on it right now. But so that process going through that, respiratory sinus arrhythmia, sorry. So respiratory sinus arrhythmia is the process of when you inhale, things speed up. When you exhale, things slow down. And then when you hold your breath, that's another, we'll come back. Holding your breath is interesting as well. When you're humming or making some type of sound, that's nice for a lot of reasons. One, you're starting to activate some of the muscles around the throat. So you're engaging some of the nerves around. So you have these 12 cranial nerves. There's cranial nerves that are innervating the muscles around the throat. If you're in a place of, say, like a shutdown or freeze response, the nerves innervating those muscles that would allow you to do something like humming or sighing, any of that, they can start to lose tone. And you'll go into kind of this like flaccid freeze response, shutdown response. And so you can start to retune the nerve fibers that would be activating the muscles that allow for speech and communication. And what that does to your nervous system is it sends a signal that you're safe to communicate. And so when you speak slow and deep and you have pauses and you exhale, all of those would be trademark signs that you're calm, you feel safe, you feel like things are under control. The moment that you feel like you are out of control, you feel like you're under threat, you feel like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. Suddenly everything goes, it clamps up. and your vocal cords and everything gets tight, and you end up speaking. You'll probably talk faster, but you also talk in a higher pitched tone. And so you can start to retune or recalibrate those muscles and the nerve fibers that would be responsible for creating tone or voice. And so just like going through that, you're slowing the heart rate down, which is great. You're also giving yourself almost like a little nerve massage or nervous system massage. And so if you were a little bit out of whack before, it's almost like bringing you back into equilibrium just through creating that acoustic vibration of the sigh. It also builds up humming in particular. Ends up you release a significant, I think it's like 13 times, if I remember correctly, 13 times more nitric oxide production through the process of humming. So that's a vasodilator, causes things to open. So it's like just, it literally and figuratively, physiologically, all the ways is opening you up. It's opening you up to the world. And when you inhale, something that's interesting as well, you actually you have a higher perception of threat. So there has been research done. You might have heard about this before, where people were shown various different pictures of like neutral faces to kind of a little bit less neutral. And what they found is people will perceive, if they're in an inhalatory pattern, they'll perceive the faces as more threatening. If you're in an exhalatory pattern, you'll perceive the face as like, okay, cool, things are chill, it's all good. And so we're always oscillating in and out of sympathetic, parasympathetic, sympathetic, parasympathetic. It's like everything goes in a tide. Your heartbeat goes in a tide. The sun, the moon, it's all tidal. It's all rhythmic. And so sympathetic, not bad or good. Parasympathetic, not bad or good. Them working together in union, super good. And so it's that oscillation between the two that's really valuable. So for you to be able to have a healthy sympathetic response where everything tightens up, you shunt blood out of the viscera into the appendicular, like into the limbs to be able to get the heck out of the room. Your pupils dilate, you become myopic. It's like you're flexing and stretching your nervous system into the sympathetic. It's so beautiful. And then you hide underneath a tree, you shake it out, whatever you do, like a zebra would do, which is why they don't get ulcers, which is Robert Sapolsky book. Then you are retuning and recalibrating your system back into the parasympathetic, where now, okay, it's safe. We can now go back into healing. We can now go back into restoration, because probably when we were in that sympathetic tone, we probably jacked ourselves up a little bit to survive that threat. Now we need to restore. Now we need to heal. The problem with the world that we live in, this is a Stephen Porges reference. Well, something we talked about in the conversation was that the world that we live in is, he says, inherently abusive. And it depends on how you cut it. There'd be a lot of nuance to it. But you think like the lights that it seems like you have artificial lights on you right now.
Yes, right? I have the window open.
So, it's just the window?
I do.
The lighting's so good.
I have a little bit of artificial lights, but I'm sitting near a window and it's sunny, so I opened it. Good. My podcast producer will complain because I'm bleaching myself out, but I'm not going to waste the sun. So
don't waste the sun. Yeah. So I'm in my whatever you'd call this, office, podcast space, whatever. It's surrounded by windows, which is great. But I also have the artificial lights going as well. And so within that is. It's actually you already know all that stuff, but it's sending kind of a little bit of like an irritating stimulus to my nervous system. It's causing me to close up a little bit, right? And if you you think of like the Wi-Fi and the radiation, all that stuff, they have a very consistent pattern with the way that those frequencies are being released, and alternating current, electricity passing through your house as opposed to the direct current that you'd be getting from the sun. It kind of it's almost like we're under like a subtle, low scale attack, and that's also, you could change your perception of that and probably augment things as well. But just the homes that we're living in, or if you look at like a person, like the jobs that we have for the most part, or if you're in college, when he was talking about this, he was talking about in college, a person just sitting inside of an artificially lit room, sitting at a desk where they're hunching over, their hips are at 90 degrees, their knees are at 90 degrees, their shoulders are hunched forward, their eyes are chronically contracted because they're looking at something up close, which contracts the muscles around the eyes. You're kind of holding yourself in this pattern that's not really advantageous for the body to be able to heal or express or feel like it can actually like access its full range of motions, which is the way that we circulate fluids and heal ourselves. And so the mold that if we just allow ourselves to be dust in the wind in modern culture, we're fighting an uphill battle towards health. And so, within that, it's like we need to kind of we need to go out of our way to bring back the parasympathetic, or else we'll probably get stuck in the chronic sympathetic. And then any form of, even the concept of like battling a disease, I think, that's, even that idea might put us more into sympathetic as well. But so we, in the world that we live in, we need to go out of our way to access the parasympathetic. One of the easiest ways that we can do that, regardless of what you're doing or where you're at, is to access the breath. It's like a superpower. So no matter what the situation is, no matter what the lights are, no matter what radiation you have going on, or what, if you're in the 2000th floor of a building, you can always access the breath, and it can always bring you back, at least within yourself, back to a place of a little bit more parasympathetic ease.